Welcome to the Transfer Student section of Mat 163. This fall, the Transfer section of Mat 163 is an online course that is meeting between August the 30th and October the 15th. In other words, this is a half-semester course that is a one-credit course at Buff State. Many of you are planning on continuing onto the transfer student section of Mat 164, which will start on October the 18th and go to the end of the class. What I want to do is give you a whirlwind tour of the Blackboard site for this Math 163 course, as well as talk a little bit about how you're going to access the assignments for the course and turn them in. When you log into Blackboard, you're going to see something that looks fairly much like this, although you won't have a student preview is on, and by the time you're able to log in, the course will be available to students. The home page for the course is just a generic Blackboard page. I haven't really done anything to change that. But the main course menu over here on the left has been customized, and there's a lot of information about the course that is posted over here, and you should take the time to explore all of these links. What I want to focus in on in this video right now is the labs link, because the labs link is where all of your homework will be distributed, and it will also be where the Blackboard drop boxes are for you to turn in your homework. In a traditional Mat 163 class that is being taught along with a Calculus 1 lecture, the course meets once a week and there are usually about 13 or 14 assignments. We will have 14 lab assignments for you to complete by October the 15th, and so that works out to about 2 labs per week. If we click on the labs link, we get some information about the contents of the folder, and there will typically be one folder for each lab. I am organizing a folder for each lab because there's usually more information than just the notebook that I want you to work through that pertains to the lab. Right now, the only one that is in completely finished form is Lab 1, and Lab 1 looks longer than it really is because there's a lot of support stuff built into Lab 1 because this is an online course. In particular, I've got some video assignments, and it's important for you to decide where you're going to want to do your work for this class. The reason that's important is that if you want to work on your own computer, you will have to download Mathematica onto it. If you are content to work on Buffalo State College computers, you will have access to the Macintosh computers in SAMC 263 and the computers in the library, both in Study Quad and over by the Academic Commons area, do have Mathematica installed on them. There are some instructions for installing Mathematica along with a video on that. There is a PDF about downloading the Mathematica notebooks and turning your work in, and we're going to be looking at that. And then there's a Dropbox for the first part of the lab, along with a video that steps you through exactly what to do in that first part of the lab. There's a second part of the lab that actually has 2 support videos, and then there's a third part of the lab that I'm wanting you to try and work on all by yourself and turn in. So there are actually a little bit unusual in this one. There are 3 Mathematica notebooks. None of them are very long, but you have to turn in each one of them. So at this point, I want to focus in on downloading Mathematica notebooks and what you do in order to get into them and how you're going to be turning your work. Now, I've got the this particular thing open over here, and so this basically is the contents of that particular link. To download Mathematica notebooks, you first of all need to go to the appropriate Dropbox. And then you're going to right-click on the name of the Mathematica notebook. And I stress right-click. On a Macintosh, that's a control click. Because when you just click on a file in a web browser, what happens depends upon how your web browser is set up and what add-ons are active in your web browser. If you always do a right click, you'll always get a save as or a save link as option on the menu, and we'll see that in just a minute. I want to stress why I'm telling you to do right clicks. As I said, most browsers are simply going to download the file to a default download folder if you just click on the file. And if you don't know where your default download folder is, then you're not going to be able to find the notebook in order to work through it. The other problem is that there is an add-on to some browsers that allow the browser to open up a Mathematica notebook as a browser tab. And that lets you read the notebook, but it doesn't let you activate the input cells and add text cells and edit stuff and then save your work. And unfortunately, many of the computers in SAMC 263 have that add-on installed. And so you've got to be really careful if you're downloading files in SAMC 263 to do a control click, because those are Macintoshes. So what I want to do is I want to show you how that works. So we're going to come over here and I'm going to download Lab 1 Part 1. Now I don't click on the title bar of the Dropbox. I click on the name of the file. So I'm going to do a right click and there is the thing that pops up, and I slide down to Save Link As. And that'll bring up a browser. Now this is just my home directory, but I know where I'm going to be storing it. I would strongly suggest that you create a folder for all of your Mat 163 work. Now I'm actually going to save this in the master directory that I've got. And I'm going to do it in this download Blackboard thing. You don't need to worry about rechanging the name for this because the turn-in system in Blackboard is robust enough where your name will be attached to the file. And so I save it. Now, how do I get a chance to work on that thing? Well, if you're in Chrome, you can actually double-click on what you downloaded just there, but I'm going to presume that you don't actually have Chrome or you don't notice that. So if you open up the browser and you go to the same folder that you downloaded it in, you should be able to double-click on the notebook name and it will launch the notebook. But there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of here as well. I'm working on a Macintosh and I've never had a problem with just double-clicking stuff on Macintoshes. But through the years, I have noticed that when you are on a PC, some PCs seem to set the file type for all downloaded files as web content, and they're going to try and open up the file typically in whatever the current version of the Microsoft web browser is. And if you look at the icon will actually be typically a big E for that web browser. And you have to do a different process. So if double-clicking the file doesn't open up Mathematica, what you've got to do is you've got to open up Mathematica from the Start menu of your PC, and then go to the File menu inside of the Mathematica window and select Open. And then you should get a file browser, and then you go to the browser and you find the notebook that you want to open, and you click on it and you open it up. You really should make a small editing change and save the notebook, because that will change the icon from the Microsoft web browser icon to the Mathematica icon. And then in the future, you'll be able to just go to the file and double click on it and Mathematica will open. So, okay, I'm going to pretend that I have saved this particular notebook, that I've worked through it and saved it. I'm not actually going to do that, but we're going to say that I'm ready to turn this in. Now, on some browsers, Blackboard is picky and it won't let you turn in a Mathematica notebook if Mathematica is actually still the active application. The active application is the one that is in front, the one that you're actually working on. But sometimes Blackboard is picky enough where if Mathematica is running in the background, it can interfere with the attach a file. So in addition to saving my file, I am actually going to quit Mathematica by sliding down to quit Mathematica. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the standard way that you turn in files. You click on the title of the Dropbox and you get what I call a submission panel. And I'm going to want to attach a file, not write a submission. So I go down to the attach file area and I click on browse local files. And typically it'll open up like in your home directory. It opens up wherever you last looked at things. So I'm going to go to the directory where I saved that thing. And I select it, and then I have to open that file. And at this point, the name of the file that I'm wanting to submit is sitting there in front of me. And I can hit submit. And then I get this particular thing. And when I got this, you'll see that it tells you success. Your submission appears on this page, so you can check what you did by downloading it. When I get around to grading it, this stuff will be updated, and that is the submission process. So at this point, you should have enough information to start trying to play around with getting comfortable with the web page. You should try to install Mathematica on your own computer if you're planning on using it to do your work. And if possible, you should start trying to work on Lab 1 so that you have a chance to watch those videos, play with the notebooks, and get help in my office hours if you start running into problems. The final thing that I want to say is that I am also teaching 2 face-to-face Math 163s that are earmarked for my 161 students. Those face-to-face Math 163s meet on Friday afternoons between 2 and 4 p.m. And you are welcome to stop by SAMC 263, which is where they're meeting, anytime during a Friday afternoon between 2 and 4, and I will be willing to help you with whatever problems you're having, as long as I'm not actually lecturing to my Math 163 students. On the first Friday of the semester, the Math 163 students in my 161 class will basically be doing much of what you are expected to do for Lab 1. And so if you are still struggling with Lab 1, it would be a good idea to stop by and watch a real live demonstration and sort of work through things as the Math 161 students are working through things. So that concludes our whirlwind tour. I want to say good luck in your online course, and I'm always here for trying to give you any help that I can.